Last time out, our drivers fell like Icarus from the sky. For 5 weeks now, we have torn up the city. The city has torn itself up. For a finale, we're heading back to basics. Back to the Rock. So hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, for the final time to the 6-Axis Motorstorm Apocalypse Championship. I'm Chuggy, and today I have the pleasure in talking you through the final 2 races of our championship. This week we're out at the Rock, a prison island. As the city now lies in ruins, we have 2 races which will surely change the course of our championship. After a flawless display up in the skyline, Mad Drunk Boy clearly has momentum, but will he be able to convert it into momentum here? The races are long races. There are only 2 courses, but they both span 8 laps. So this is going to be very much about who can maintain a consistent pace. Having said that, let's see what happens in race 1. So welcome to race 1. Only 2 races this week here from the Rock, but these are endurance events. A little bit different from what we've seen previous. Let's see which of our drivers can manage the fastest overall pace across 8 laps here at the Rock. Here we are riding off the start. We're on board with Death in Flames in the muscle car. Looks like a solid start off the aircraft carrier onto the prison island. This is an island predominantly harder surfaces, a lot of concrete, a lot of bedrock, but there'll be plenty of airtime as well. It's going to be quite an interesting mix to see which vehicles will have the advantage across the various lines you will see. But off the start, looks like Death in Flames has made an excellent start up into 2nd position, but everything is up for grabs still, and with double points as well. Anyone could really make it a serious challenge for their title champion or title charge. And unfortunately, it looks like Kegs in the Mudplug, a current leader, is having one heck of an aggressive race, and it looks like the field is starting to get caught out. It looks like Death in Flames there got caught out not only by the weight of Kegs' Mudplugger there, but then got caught out by that wall, taking the front of the suspension off his muscle car, and unfortunately has sent him back 5 places back to 7th.
Kegs is so much more aggressive
by the looks
today.
of it, we've got a long way to go, of course, and anything could happen. And in fact, already we're starting to see some position changes, and there's Tom ahead in the racing truck, dueling with Top Gear Sam on the motorcycle, and in that instance, the motorcycle lost. Let's now ride on board with Mad Drunk Boy in the buggy. Some incredible form as of late. Perfect racing last week on the skyline. Currently running in 1st place, but look, Kegs is not far behind. This race has got a long way to go, and goodness gracious me, Kegs is at it again, using the weight of that Mudplugger to really impose himself on the race course. And of course, the buggy, not being the heaviest, strongest vehicle, losing out that little tussle there, but Mad Drunk Boy is back on the throttle, back on the boost, chasing down Kegs. And with double points, Mad Drunk Boy could take the overall win depending on what happens. Of course, now, in terms of other title championship charges, we have Death in Flames and Tom as well involved. They are the top 4 drivers after all the previous week's racing, and any of these guys in the right conditions could win overall. So this is going to be a very interesting event, of course, and endurance, it's all about being consistent more than ever, with, of course, as usual, the times being counted rather than the positions. But of course, coming into the final week, I'm sure everyone will want to be running up in the top positions for the glory. So we can see here Mad Drunk Boy in the buggy, taking the higher line, hanging up with the hot air balloons. And it's also worth mentioning that it looks like his buggy's had a little bit of a makeover. It looks very nice indeed, perhaps with some of the race winnings from last week, who knows. But anyway, let's move on now to Tom's perspective in the racing truck, very close behind Mad Drunk Boy in the buggy. Looks like we've got an interesting battle to be had in the near future laps. Let's see what happens. So Tom coming across the line to start lap 3 of 8, coming into the prison in the racing truck. Now, of course, the racing truck, although it isn't the heaviest vehicle we have in our field, it is certainly not the lightest. And Tom, as of late, has been using it incredibly aggressively to create a path for himself and to clear rivals from his path. And by the looks of the start, looks like Tom was up to some of that as well again. And as we follow him through here, through this prison complex, heading towards the inside of the Rock here, into this tunnel section, looks like the racing truck is enjoying these sort of varied conditions. A little bit of uneven ground, the higher ground clearance working for the racing truck, it seems here, taking the lower line here. It might not look like the lower line, but it is compared to the other route. Slightly longer, I believe, this line, but a little more uneven, so the slightly higher ground clearance vehicle should be able to make some ground. And it looks like Tom is doing exactly that. Chasing down Mad Junk Boy in the buggy, who seems to have got slightly ahead at this point, but I'm sure Tom will keep charging as he has been doing across the previous weeks. Coming around to complete lap 4, we now move on board with Project J, who's only a little way behind Tom, but he's down in 7th place. It looks like we've got a nice little scrap here for the midfield positions, not too far off the podium position, we like to see. The muscle car here of Project J should be enjoying these conditions with the mostly flat surfaces, and with any luck we should be in for a really super scrap coming into the halfway mark of this race. Looks like Project J is really pushing his car, as we like to see, pushing the boost, using the jump to cool down the engine. Wise strategy there. Currently running in 7th of 11 drivers at this point. And with literally only half race distance gone, anything could happen. We can see here a slightly different line being employed actually. Looking like he's going to use the right-hand line here into the rock section. This looks like, again, slightly flatter terrain, probably will suit the slightly lower ground clearance vehicles. And as we clear the jump, go through the mud, he too is taking the lower, flatter line, evidently prefers that, given that it is, although a little uneven, it is much more flat and less airtime to be had, which should suit the muscle car. But you never know with Motorstorm. If all the vehicles take one particular path, everything can get quite uneven. And as we can see, it looks like it's working out for Project J. He's catching up on Chuggy in the rally car. Chuggy coming off the back of a great heat last week up in the skyline. Equally doing well, running very well indeed in midfield. It looks like Project J's got the overtake done and in the bag, coming on to lap 5 of 8. Looks like we're going to have a really good scrap here in the midfield. And yet again, looks like Project J is sticking with the same line, a wise choice. Obviously, Motorstorm Racing is all about finding the perfect line for your vehicle. Of course, with so many different types of vehicle, you have many different types of line, and it's worth mentioning that we've only seen a very brief spectrum of the vehicles in Motorstorm Apocalypse. We haven't seen any big rigs, monster trucks, and it looks like we've got a proper little scrap here going on for 6th and 7th place, and unfortunately it looks like Chuggy's won that there. Project J gets caught out, pit manoeuvred, and loses the rear axle of his muscle car. That is some real dedication there, and pride on the line, even for the midfield positions here in the last heats, last races of our championship. It's what we like to see, racing up and down the whole field for the glory of beating your rivals. It's what we like to see and what we've been seeing a lot of in this championship. I think it's worth saying well done to all the drivers, irrespective of where they have come in this championship. I think I can speak for a lot of us saying that it's been absolutely fantastic racing, and looking forward, of course, to the future or the next race after this, which will be the finale, and it's got a bit of a twist on it from what I hear. But moving on now, we're back on board with Tom in the racing truck in 3rd position on his 6th lap. Coming around the back straight here, the backside here of the prison, taking the left-hand line, which we've seen a few more drivers take in this race. Slightly more uneven, and that should suit the racing truck. Perhaps that's why Tom is taking that line. But it looks like he is making good ground, or making up time where he can. Again, choosing the same route, but it looks repeatedly to try and close the gap to the cars ahead of him. And by the looks of it, the cars ahead of him have got quite the gap, and I can only assume it must be Mad Junk Boy in the buggy and Kegs in the mud flugger battling, I would hope, up ahead. But Tom's not giving up. It's what we like to see, using the boost, pushing the boost right to the limit on this lap here, the 6th out of 8. Coming down into the rock section here for the 2nd time this lap, and it's all very much to play for. We may only have 2 laps remaining in this race, but we've got another 8 to go. And with time being all important, it's really important to finish as closely as you can to the leaders, of course, so you don't get the default slowest time. It looks like Tom is really on a push here to try and catch up, and with any luck he will do, and we'll get a bit more action towards the end of the race. And in fact, here we go, we've got Death in Flames not too far behind. He's in 4th place, only 1 position behind Tom, and it looks like he's using this right-hand line as well, being in a muscle car, following Project J's lead here, and hopefully gaining an advantage from it. We'll see where this brings the 2 drivers out, of course, 2 different lines, 2 different vehicles, And I'm hoping we'll be able to see in a moment when we come out of darkness. Yes, there indeed is Tom ahead, taking the right-hand line, much like Death in Flames here. And it looks like we may have a really excellent scrap ahead in the closing laps. It's what we like to see, of course, isn't it, ladies and gentlemen? As we come around this long right-hander past the hot air balloons for yet a 7th time. And we are using all the engine here. Death in Flames really on a charge to try and catch Tom here in the final few laps, to try and take his fight to Kegs and Mad Junk Boy for the overall championship lead. Let's see what happens as we enter the final lap. So into the prison for a final time. Avoiding that jump there, perhaps not the best choice for the muscle car, but down this ramp here, get a little bit of air time, cooling down the engine, full boost usage coming around this long left-hander onto the back straight. And unfortunately, it looks like the muscle cars perhaps had a little oversteer there, and it's caught Death in Flames out. That's unfortunate, and good lord, look at that Top Gear. Sam's having none of that on his motorcycle. He is charging through. Looks like we'll have a bit of a battle there for 4th and 5th position. But we're now riding on board with Mad Junk Boy in the buggy. Sure enough, is in 2nd. Sure enough, is taking the high line, chilling out with these hot air balloons. And it looks like he is also pushing to try and catch the car ahead, which I can only assume is Kegs, because the last time we saw him he was far ahead. And it looks like we might have a vehicle ahead, or that might have been a shadow, I couldn't really tell. But either way, the winner has in fact finished the race, and it looks like Mad Junk Boy will not be contested here for 2nd place across the line. A solid race win there. And sure enough, yes indeed, it was Kegs with a sterling 10 minutes 1 second time, 8 laps around the rock. That is going to be a very fierce time, and 8 seconds advantage to Mad Junk Boy coming home in 2nd. 3rd was Tom, a solid performance there in the racing truck. And as we wait for the rest of the field to come in, we'll start to get a picture of where the time needs to be made up by the various drivers. Super performance by Top Gear Sam on the motorcycle. Looks like he held Death in Flames there from that mistake on the last lap. And as we wait for the rest of the field to come in, we will see the overall times they post. And this race clearly dominated there by Kegs 11 in the mud plug. A little bit of aggressive driving off the start, cleared the ground he needed to take that race win. Closely followed, it has to be said, in endurance terms by Mad Junk Boy, only 8 seconds behind, followed by Tom to round out the top 3. An interesting race, full of action, full of contact, drivers trying to create a bit of space around them to try and get ahead. Let's see if the same happens for the final race. Let's go to race 2. And here we go. After weeks of racing, it's come to this, the finale on the rock. It's night. We've cracked out the fireworks. Let's get motorstorming. So yet another an 8-lap race here. Essentially the reverse course of what we have just raced on. But it's night. The course has been slightly adapted, given we're now going the other way around. Let's see who can take the advantage and possibly win the championship. Everything is up for grabs at this point. Well, off the start, it's a super start here by Mad Junk Boy. Battling up ahead, we've got Death in Flames. It looked like Top Gear Sam there on the motorcycle, and we've got a real battle here for ground between Mad Junk Boy, Top Gear Sam, and it looks like Kegs as well getting involved, using the weight of the mud plugger, the heaviest vehicle we have in this field, to his advantage. And it looks like it's going to be very close between the leading vehicles coming into the rock section for the 2nd time this lap. And it looks like Death in Flames taking the early advantage, but Kegs not too far behind. In fact, there's Tom as well. Everyone in the championship hunt here is right up close, and good lord, that was bound to happen. Unfortunately, it looks like we've had a slight accident there for Mad Junk Boy. Too many vehicles, not enough space, and oh, that's unfortunate. It looks like on the jump got caught out by a car which was just resetting after an incident, and unfortunately that sent him back, and good lord, I think that was a motorcycle rider going across the front of his bonnet. All sorts of action on lap 1, and it looks like Tom in the racing trucks had a jolly good start here, up in 3rd off the 1st lap, coming through the prison here into the start finish. A solid start there for the racing truck driver. Looks like we're chasing down Death in Flames ahead, who's in the muscle car. This is going to be an interesting race indeed between these two, and with double points on offer, anything could happen. So as we come up the hill for the 2nd time, looks like this right-hand route, the lower route as it would have been in the last race, is still the most popular. and it looks like all the drivers really pushing their vehicles to the limit to try and gain ground on one another. And we can see Tom pushing the boost to the limit, taking this long left-hander nice and tightly. A little bit of a slide out the exit there, quelled with a lot of boost to try and get the car pointing in one direction as we come across the jump. Engine cools down a bit, down into this tight tunnel section again. Hopefully we won't have another impact as we fall on lap 1. And it looks like Death in Flames is responding, keeping a solid gap as we come down the back straight here, through the prison, going around this long right-hander, past the aircraft carrier. Looks like a good party ready for the drivers when they finish over there. And you can see the remains of the city burning off in the distance. Hard to think, for the last few weeks we've been racing there, and look at it now, quite a transformation indeed. Now we're riding on board with Death in Flames in the muscle car, in second place, Tom just behind. Clearly looks like he's feeling the pressure from the racing truck, pushing the car right to the limit, using the boost, using some water to cool down the engine as we come up the hill here for the third time. Let's see if we take this right-hand route again. It looks like Death in Flames has, and it looks like we're making some good ground, but unfortunately we've had a disconnection from the race. G-Town has disconnected in this second race, which means he will get the slowest recorded time from any driver. That's an unfortunate disconnection. G-Town, a solid member of the field across the championship, and it looks like though that Death in Flames hasn't paid too much attention to that in driving, and he is pushing onwards still. Looks like we've possibly got Tom nearby, if I might have heard the engine correctly there in the background, but in either case, Death in Flames really pushing to try and chase down whoever is in first position, who has made an early superb getaway from the field to try and keep themselves away from any potential accident. And of course, this being a time-based competition, being consistent in your lap times, not being reckless, will get you serious distance in the timing stakes. And we can see here Death in Flames coming around to complete the third lap, taking a slightly bumpier line, it seems. Actually, the muscle car might not be as optimal on that line as it perhaps could be elsewhere, but let's ride on board with Project J and see what he does. The other muscle car here in our field, and pushing the boost to the limit, taking the same line. Interesting that. Same line, pushing the boost to the limit over the top of the jump, using the water to cool the engine, and across the start finish for the fourth lap. Really cracking out the pyrotechnics now, but it looks like by the headlights we've got a vehicle close behind. We've got a scrap here in the midfield, and let's see who it is. Hopefully they'll come from the inside. It's Top Gear Sam on the motorcycle. Again, another solid racer, being charting some very good performance, or very good win point scores and wins and whatnot throughout the championship. And it looks like Project J has actually opted to take the left-hand higher line. I believe this is the first vehicle we've seen do this. Let's see how this works out for the muscle car driver. Obviously we'll then have Top Gear Sam on the motorcycle taking the other line. Looks like the other line is much faster. Look at that ground gained, roughly side by side going up the hill. Looks like that might have been a bad choice in hindsight there for Project J in the muscle car, but let's see what he can do coming into the final 4 laps here of this endurance event and of the championship. Still plenty of ground to cover, plenty of points to play for. Anything could happen. This is Motorstorm. So taking a slightly different line, it seems here, and it looks like it might not have paid off, unfortunately, for the muscle car driver. Everyone seems to be staying relatively low, taking the longer left-hand line. Looks like Project J there wanted to try the slightly higher, more direct line. Sent him a little bit wide by result, but looks like he's back on the throttle, currently in 6th position out of 10, coming up to complete the 4th out of 8 laps. And here we go on to lap 5 as we come into the rock section yet again, and let's see if he can start to make ground back on Top Gear Sam on the motorcycle to secure his position in this race in the midfield. As we continue up this line, yet again, that's interesting. Project J's taking this left-hand line, although it was visibly slower last time out. Let's see if he can do it a little bit better, perhaps gain some ground, who knows. As we come across this bridge here, over the little jump, again close to the hot air balloons, really enjoying the racing it seems. Igniting the burners to try and encourage our drivers to go faster, perhaps, who knows. Either way, lovely visual spectacle as we come through the rock section for a second time this lap. Looks like Project J is really pushing the boost, and he's taking, well, looks like perhaps a left-hand line? No, he's changed course there, back through this very enclosed tunnel section, it has to be said. Really pushing the car, continuing to push the car to try and bear down on 5th position, who should be Top Gear Sam on the motorcycle. And again, actually, we're taking this inside line. Let's see if it works out. Well, we've changed away. It's to Mad Junk Boy, who's currently in 3rd position on the 6th lap here, going up the hill. That's the gap. It was almost half of the race course gap between 6th and 3rd place. That's how quick the drivers in the front are. It's impressive, and it looks like we might be bearing down on Death in Flames in the muscle car. This could be very, very crucial for the overall finish between, of course, Mad Junk Boy and Death in Flames, who are very close in the table. As we come through the rock section here over the jump, the buggy should be enjoying a slight advantage there, slightly better in the air, and using the boost through the tunnel section, gaining ground, it seems, on Death in Flames, who's in the muscle car, who should be making a little bit of ground here on the flatter surface. As we come round this long right-hander, past the hot air balloons, past the cruiser and its party, looks like we've got a choice in different lines as we come to complete this 6th lap. And another car ahead. Could that be a laptive car perhaps, or could it be the leader? Who knows? We will find out soon enough as we cross the line for the 7th time. It is in fact Chuggy. Is Chuggy in the lead? We'll find out in a second when we pass him or not. We will see what happens. It looks like Death in Flames and Chuggy are scrapping for ground. That might be a leader, or it might be a lap car. We will see shortly. It looks like a bit of contact. Oh, unfortunately, it looks like Chuggy just got stuck there on the front left of Mad Junk Boy's buggy. And sure enough, he was being lapped. That, again, is a testament to the pace of the guys in the front of the field. Looks like Tom, we're now riding on board with in the racing truck, isn't too far behind either, in 4th position. All to play for in the remaining few laps. This is literally going to go down to the wire for the final few positions. If Kegs is out in front, I think that pretty much secures his position and the overall win in the championship. A superb set of drives from that driver there in that case. But as we are on board with Tom, he is not giving up yet. Pushing the boost to the limit, he can see the headlights of the car ahead. Clearly, he is on the hunt for a podium position, and good lord, is that the podium position right there? Yes, yes it is. There goes Chuggy, and I can only presume perhaps the buggy of Mad Junk Boy, who knows, over that jump, and Tom is taking full advantage of the instance around him, letting the race develop around him, and is now up into 3rd place with 1 lap remaining. Once he completes this one, everything is really still to play for in this final Motorstorm race of this championship. And as we enter this rock section for the final time, we see a few cars on the previous lap jumping over Tom. That's why there are 2 sections to this rock course here. As we go up the hill for the final time, the lighthouse is blasting out a beautiful blue light. As we now ride on board with Death in Flames only a little way ahead. Tom still could make up some ground here, perhaps 2nd place, who knows. Death in Flames clearly pushing his vehicle to the limit, trying to make all the possible ground. Oh, and is that more oversteer? Yes, yes it was, and oh, he's off the rock. That's clearly going to cost him some time, and in fact he's rolled the vehicle. That is disastrous. He's going to be losing loads of time thanks to that. Was that Tom who just went past? I cannot tell at this point, but the winner has indeed finished the race. That's a super time. Looks like sub 10 minutes, and oh no, it looks like Death in Flames has ripped off the front left suspension of his muscle car there, and it looks like we've got Mad Junk Boy ahead, or was ahead, and is that Tom ahead in the racing truck? It could very well be. This could be critical, ladies and gentlemen, for the overall standings. We'll figure that out once we have the times together, and with double points on offer, the table as we know it could completely change. Either way, we're coming up the hill for the final time through the prison. 30 seconds to go on the racing clock, and it looks like whoever is ahead is going to come home in 2nd, but a solid 3rd place there for Death in Flames. Let's see the overall scoreboard, and yes indeed it was Tom finishing in 2nd, but look at that. Kegs 11, a sub 10 minute time there, 9 minutes 57, 30 seconds, 34 seconds in fact of the next finisher, who was Tom on the racing truck. A solid race there, followed by Death in Flames, followed by Mad Junk Boy, followed by Top Gear Sam on the motorcycle. An amazing race there as the rest of the field come in. And yet again, Kegs takes an impressive win, and as you can imagine, that means that this week Kegs has taken the full 50 points from Mad Junk Boy, who gets 36. Tom came home in 3rd overall this week with 30, with Death in Flames with 24 points for 4th. And as you can imagine, this has changed the overall leaders, and as a result, Kegs11 is our championship winner with 143 points to Death in Flames, who came second with 121. Mad Drunk Boy prevails in a little scrap between himself and Tom, who came in 4th place with 106 points, and solid performances by Top Gear Sam and Project Jamie. They come 5th and 6th overall. Kivy in the rally car, a couple strong races towards the end there, 32 points, just beating Online Assassin with 31. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's our overall leaderboard, and I just want to say thank you very much for joining us. It's been a fantastic championship, lots of action, lots of fantastic racing, and it's been my pleasure to commentate on it. So I hope you've enjoyed the races, guys. I have been commentating on them, and what I'd like to leave you now with is some of the best bits. So I've been Chuggy, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time out on the racetrack.
Traveling through another dimension. A dimension not only of sound, but of mind. This is not a new world or otherwise. It is simply an extension of what began in the old one. It has patterned a gripping imprint on the pages of history since the beginning of time.